Pat. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
We've got about 20 members of our local media here. We're going to get right to questions. We'll begin with, let's go with James Hale of KREF, and then Ryan Aber.
Pat, how you doing, man? Hope things are going well. Pat, you guys last year against Kansas State, that was a weird game. Nobody expected what happened there. Talk about what you see out of Kansas State this year, and from what you can take from last year, how can you bring a little bit of a different attack this year and go get the Wildcats this year?
What we see from K-State is kind of, the same thing we always see from the type of program, an extremely disciplined team, an extremely physical team, a team that's going to, run the ball downhill extremely hard. And I think the biggest thing are, an extremely physical team and an extremely disciplined team. Last year, whenever we played them, we had multiple penalties. We had penalties on third downs where we had gotten stops, and then, the penalties allowed them to move the sticks and things like that. So going into this game, we tried to attack these last 2 weeks as, practicing to be physical, practicing to be the most physical team on Saturday, and then practicing to be the most disciplined team because, penalties literally hurt us last year and were a big reason for why we lost the game.
Pat, thanks, man.
Okay, Ryan Aber with the Oklahoman, and then Joe Bettner.
Yeah, Pat, I think there was 5 starters on defense last week that were from Tulsa, a lot of guys from that area contributing. How much pride do you take in that, and what do you think it is about that area that's allowed players from there to be so successful?
We take a lot of pride in it, just being an Oklahoma guy, and then, growing up, the Oklahoma Sooners was our professional football team. We don't have an NFL team here, so, we really look to the OU Sooners as, the biggest professional team in the state because, in a sense, we are the biggest team in the state. So we've kind of just grown up dreaming to play at OU. So now that we got the opportunity, we're just trying to take advantage of it. And then kind of like what inspires us and fuels us is, we know a lot of guys from Tulsa have gone under recruited. So we're the ones that are representing our city. We're the ones representing that, we got talent in Oklahoma, we got talent in Tulsa. So we look at it as, a chip on our shoulder to represent our city well and represent our state well and help get other guys recruited as well as inspire other guys in our city.
Appreciate it, Pat.
And Joe Bettner with the Norman transcript, and then Eric Bailey.
Was curious if you being captain at OU, was curious if you were a captain also at Union, but my bigger question is just you showed a lot of leadership over the offseason. I'm curious where that leadership comes from, at least where you think it comes from, where you learned that from.
Yes, sir, I was a captain in high school at Union, and then I don't know, it's kind of always just came naturally to me. I'm a guy who I think I kind of thrive in like times of adversity or times of conflict and things like that, where guys are kind of like searching for what to do or direction and things like that. That kind of like helps me go harder. For example, whenever there's the little time we did have for workouts together, whenever running or conditioning would get hard, that would kind of like make me want to go harder because I know if I go harder, that's going to bring other guys along. So I kind of always look for, times of conflict and adversity, kind of step up and lead. And I think it's just kind of always just kind of came natural to me. That's how I was in high school and middle school and growing up.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Eric Bailey with the Tulsa World, and then Bob Prisbilla.
Hey, Pat, kind of feeding off that last question, how quick did it take you to find your voice on this team, and how much do you think that fed into becoming named team captain this season?
I think kind of like my sophomore year, that's kind of whenever I started finding my voice a little bit because, I knew Nev was leaving, Kenneth was leaving, Parnell was leaving, all the older guys were leaving. So I was kind of like being groomed to be the next leader of the team. So that's whenever, I started finding my voice. But, to be completely honest, sometimes I'll be thinking like, dang, where's Nev at? Where's K9 at? And then I'm like, oh, I'm the old guy now because it's still kind of, a surprise to us because we didn't get the off season necessarily together. So sometimes, it's a little bit of a surprise to me as well as other guys on our team. But yeah.
Thanks, Pat.
Okay, Bob Prisbillo, and then Jason Kersey.
Yeah, Pat, going back to last year, you, Delarian, rarely left the field. Did that ever wear on you mentally or physically? And how have you seen the depth improve heading into this season?
Um, it didn't really, wear on us, mentally or physically. Well, physically, of course, because over the course of the season, you go through like a lot of wear and tear. But Coach Wiley, he does a phenomenal job of holding us accountable, helping us, do injury prevention and things like that. But we kind of looked at it as we were being groomed to be the next leaders of the team because of course we knew K9, Nev, and all those guys were leading. So that's kind of us, taking charge of things and looking at it as a challenge. And then what was your second question? I thought.
How's it different this year? How's the depth looking now?
It's completely different. We got a lot of talent. We got more numbers now. Our freshman class, those guys are phenomenal. Your prototypical athletes you want whenever you look at like the NFL. We got the 6'2" corners and Josh Eden. We got the 6'2" safeties and Bryson Washington, 4'3" guys and Kendall and DJ and all of them. So they're everything you would want, from a size and physical perspective. They're just coming along mentally, learn the technique, learn the calls and all that. But, I think they're going to be phenomenal by the time their career is over with here.
Okay, Jason Kersey with the Athletic, and then Keegan Renault.
Hey, Pat, as a guy who's been here a couple of years, have you noticed a difference not having 3 non-conference games to sort of build up to conference play? Have you noticed any difference in practice? Has anything changed?
It's kind of a little bit different because our season will start. We probably be game four or so by right now. So it's a little weird, practicing with not having a game, and it's hard to be disciplined and still practice hard, even though you don't have a game coming up on Saturday. But we've just attacked it and looked at it as a challenge. But we try to keep good perspective on things because we know right now we're not approaching the halfway point in the season, but in a regular season we're approaching game 4, game 5. So we can't have errors that we would have game 1, for example. So since we lost those 2 non-conference games, that means we have to be extremely developed from a mental perspective. We can't go out there and make mistakes that we could have made a non-conference game and things that we could have got polished up by Big 12 play, if that makes sense. So we're just trying to hone in on things and make sure we're extremely disciplined and, we don't come out with any small mistakes and we don't take time to clean up things. We have to, really hit the ground running since we lost those 2 non-conference games.
Thanks, Pat.
Okay, Keegan Renault with Sooners Wire, and then Parker Thune.
Pat, just obviously you were here for 1 year before Alex Grinch got here. Can you talk about the growth of the culture of this defense over, from 18 to 19 now to 2020?
It's contagious, and I think last year the step for us was just playing hard all the time, playing like really straight into the ball, attacking the ball, being physical. And we pride ourselves on being the fastest defense in the country. But I think the biggest difference I've seen between this last year's defense and this year's defense is we're attacking the field with like a playmaking mindset. D linemen, they're attacking the field. I got to get a TFL, I got to get a sack. Linebackers, same thing. TFLs, a sack. DBs, we're looking for PBUs and interceptions. Of course, last game we still failed at reaching our at minimum 2 takeaways per game. But I mean, the culture is contagious because, whenever we're in practice, guys, we're constantly stripping at the ball. So, the offense, they're covering up whenever they're about to make contact because they know there's guys running to the ball and stripping. So it's contagious and it's affected, our whole team. And now we practice a lot harder. I think we're probably one of the best practice teams in the country, I would say, because, the way we attack things and the pride that we take in, attack and practice.
Okay, Parker Thune with SI Sooners, and then Brandon Drum.
Yeah, Pat, I'm just a little curious. Obviously, it has been a long time, decades, in fact, since there was only one captain on each side of the ball. Obviously, you and Creed Humphrey are those guys this year. Does it mean a little bit more to you in that sense to be the guy on the defensive side and represent them in that way?
Definitely. It already meant a lot to me just, being a Oklahoma guy and a guy from Tulsa, playing here. I kind of already took a lot much more pride in it. But, It's huge to me because I know it's a huge honor and privilege to be a captain of, Oklahoma Sooners. Not too many guys will ever be able to say that, but I know with that responsibility, I have a high expectation to live up to. I gotta, be the best representative for our team on and off the field. I gotta contribute more to the team. I gotta be better on the field. I gotta be a better playmaker, and all the things that come with being a captain. But it's huge to me and it's an honor. And I can't thank my teammates and coaches enough for, trusting and believing in me.
Okay, Brandon Drum with OU Insider, and then Kerry Murdoch.
Yeah, Pat, you talked about the length and the height of all the new guys in the defensive backfield. Can you kind of talk about, because Jaden talked about wanting to become more physical. He's not the biggest guy. Is that something that Coach Grinch has talked to you guys, maybe not even the guys that are longer, taller, about just being more physical at the line, being more physical on your defensive play, or just how you attack each and every play?
Definitely, because I think as a whole last year as a defensive back unit, we definitely improved, but at the end of the day, we failed with being consistently aggressive, being consistent in our technique, and we failed at creating takeaways. And, the first step to creating takeaways is being a lead at your technique. And, for our corners, that's putting hands on guys, within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. So really commit to that, putting your hands on guys. For safeties, it's, forcing receivers to run the routes through our body. And then Coach Grinch made a huge emphasis on our 225 bench press. So everybody in our defensive back unit, if they're not already at the NFL combine standard or average, then they're, 1 or 2 reps within it. So that means if we can bench press 225, 15, 16, whatever it is times, then we should be stronger than receivers. So there's no reason the receivers should be out physical than us on the field. And that's the huge thing that Coach Manning and Coach Grinch have emphasized and barked at us, throughout this whole process.
Real quick, just Justin Harrington's, you talked about length 6'4". How weird was it seeing a 6'4", 220-pound corner for you guys? Is that just a different look? I mean, he obviously hadn't been out there for a while since he got injured, but was that different?
Definitely. I think, every single year, I come surprised at, the athletes that we have in this world. Justin's a guy, like you say, he's 6'4", he's 215, 220, whatever it is, 4'4" guy. And it's like, dang, that's the best of the best, athletic wise from a physical perspective. So, we always get blown away by guys like that, guys like Bray, just freakish athletes,
Appreciate it, Pat.
Okay, we'll go to Kerry Murdoch with Sooner Scoop, and then Garen Emig.
Hey, Pat. I was just wondering, we talked to Coach Grinch. He talked about, how he still sees Ronnie Perkins as a leader on this defense while he's waiting for his time to get on the field. How do you guys as players go about kind of supporting him? And is it tough watching the teammate go through what he's going through?
It is definitely tough, watching, those guys waiting in anticipation of whenever they can come back. But he's just done a great job of being who he's always been, and that's a guy. Whenever he's on the football team, he's going hard. If it's he's on the scout team, he's giving a phenomenal look for the offense. If he's with the regular defense, he's creating pressure up front for us. And then he's just a guy that's always been vocal. And since he's kind of stepped back and he's not on the field with us, that allows him to see things up front. If a younger guy makes a mistake, he's there to correct them and help give them pointers. If there's something that we could be doing better defensively, he points those things out to us. It's kind of helped him be able to see things from a different perspective and, help give us a better perspective on things because, he's watching as opposed to being out there on the field and only seeing, what his responsibility is for that play.
Appreciate that, Pat.
Okay, we'll go to Garen Emig of the Tulsa World.
Mr. Fields, good to see you again. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. Were you OU's rep on the Big 12 Unity video?
Yes, sir.
I thought so. First of all, how did that go? How was that experience?
It went extremely well, and it kind of makes me happy to see that people are reaching out. The Big 12 is reaching out. Coaches, they're reaching out to us, and really trying to use our platform as college football players to create change and spark change. It makes me happy to see they're doing that, and they're kind of like doing their part in the fight.
Did you consult with either Bob Bowlesby or anyone at the Big 12 on anything else related to either social issues or COVID? I know they had a player outreach program. I didn't know if you were involved in that as well.
Nah, I wasn't on that call. I believe Caleb and Chance were on it whenever
Okay.
they were kind of concerned about that.
Okay, that's cool. Thanks. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Hey, Pat, we've got two more. I just want to make sure you got time to do that. I don't know if you have any class considerations or anything.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. All right, we'll go to John Hoover with SI Sooners.
Hey, Pat, thanks for your time today. Coach Grinch talked earlier about Jaden and his growth. And he said last year there was a time, he said week 6 to week 10, when he stopped getting better and was just trying to just happy that he was in the lineup. And then Jaden actually said he hit a wall and was just trying not to make mistakes during that time. Do you remember that time in your career? And do you remember him going through that last year?
Definitely. I think that's a part of everybody's career. And I kind of, had points in times where I was like that towards the beginning of the season last year, trying to not make mistakes, just playing to not mess up. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest growths that our whole secondary has had from last year to this year. Everybody's a lot more confident in what we're doing. We're confident in our technique. We're confident in being aggressive. And, we're daring guys to beat us. We know that, of course, in football, they don't want it to. There's going to be those plays where you get beat every once in a while. But it has to be a perfect throw. It has to be a perfect catch in order for us to beat us. And, we've really just committed to our technique, committed to being aggressive. And I think that's the biggest growth, of our whole secondary unit from last year to this year. But I think, the wall that Jaden's talking about, was trying not to mess up and things like that. We all kind of had points last year where we were at that point,
Yeah. Thank you, Pat.
Okay, and then back to Joe Bettner for a follow-up question.
Hey, Pat, just want to ask you to kind of go back to your high school career. Trey Brown being a year ahead of you, having a little bit more of a, I guess, had another star next to his name. But how much did he push you as far as like at the high school level and as far as like you trying to get to the next level, seeing what he went through?
Really, with Trey and, some of the other guys in his class, he really just showed me, along with other guys, that it was possible. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, growing up, like middle school, beginning of high school, like I didn't even think it was possible to go Division I, Power 5, just because we didn't have guys doing it. We maybe had 15 guys every year that went Power 5 from Oklahoma. So, whenever Trey and his class, they kind of exploded with that, they really showed us that it was possible. And that kind of inspired and motivated me that much more, and then on top of, how Trey is, how phenomenal he is as a football player, that was just, icing on the cake. But I think he really motivated and pushed me from just doing it. He really showed me that it was possible, it was possible to do this. And, since we were only a year apart, I see him every single day. So I kind of know the standard I need to be in practice. I know I got to be this type of playmaker, or I got to make these type of plays in order to do the same thing that he did.